All right, let's talk about something that drives innovators absolutely bonkers. How in the world do you schedule a breakthrough? I mean, how do you plan for the unplannable?
You know this question, right? If you're in any kind of creative or R&D role, you've been there. Your boss wants a schedule, a budget, a delivery date, all for a discovery that hasn't even happened yet. It feels kind of impossible, doesn't it?
Well, here's where the trouble really starts. You see, it used to be a nice, clean process. You had a long, unscheduled research phase, and then, later, a totally separate development phase. But today, those two worlds have just slammed into each other.
In this collision, it creates what we call the innovation scheduling paradox.
I mean, just look at these numbers. Back in the 80s, the team might have had 5, maybe even 7 years for this whole process. Today, you're lucky if you get 15 months. You're basically expected to do fundamental research and build a commercial product all at the same time. This pressure is exactly why so many brilliant projects go off the rails, leaving a lot of really frustrated people pointing fingers.
So, what do you do? Well, it all starts with a pretty radical shift in how you think about the problem. You have to embrace a concept that feels totally wrong at first, but is actually incredibly powerful: the fail faster mindset.
Here's the big secret. In innovation, failure isn't your enemy. Ignorance is. See, every failed experiment is actually a new piece of data. It tells you what doesn't work. So if you can accelerate your failures, you actually accelerate your learning. And that's the fastest way to get to a real solution.
Okay, so we've got the mindset, but how do you actually put feeling faster into a project plan? That's where this toolkit for navigating the unknown comes in.
The core building block of this whole approach is something called the learning cycle. Now, this isn't about building a feature, it's all about gaining knowledge. Think of it like a small, repeatable experiment that's designed to answer one very specific question.
And each cycle follows 4 really simple steps. You plan an experiment, you do it, you check the results, see what you learned, and then you act on that new knowledge to figure out your next move. It's just a simple, powerful loop.
Now, this is where it gets really practical. To schedule these cycles, you first have to categorize the problem you're trying to solve. As a team, you decide, is this easy, hard, or difficult? An easy problem might just take 1 or 2 cycles, while a really difficult one could take 6 or 8. And look, this isn't about being perfectly accurate. It's about making a reasonable, educated guess so you can just get started.
Let's see how this works with an example. So, say your team huddles up and agrees a problem is hard. Based on your experience, you estimate that might take, say, 3 cycles, with each cycle taking about 15 days. All of a sudden, this big, scary, unknown thing has a schedule, roughly 45 days.
This leads to a whole new way of measuring progress. Instead of those traditional milestones that ask, is the prototype done? You start using learning milestones. These ask questions like, have we learned why that component is failing? Done no longer means a feature is complete. Done means the question has been answered.
Now here's a really surprising insight. For most innovation projects, the true on-the-edge, never-been-done-before part, it's usually only about 10% of the total work.
Yeah, the other 90% is pretty much standard development. The secret is to not let that super risky 10% derail the entire project. So you identify it, you isolate it, you put a dedicated team on it, and you start it running in parallel as early as you possibly can. This way, you tackle the big risks without stopping everything else.
Now, these tools are fantastic, but they only really work if you've got the right environment. So the final step is to think bigger. It's about building an entire innovation engine inside your organization. And this whole thing hinges on a critical partnership. On one side, you have the team. Their job is to run as many learning cycles as they can, as fast as they can. On the other side, management's job is to be an interrupt shield, to protect that team from distractions, get them the resources they need, and just keep them focused. Each side has a totally distinct but absolutely vital role.
And the final piece of the engine is about challenging assumptions. Look, breakthroughs don't happen just because we think harder. They happen when we formally question our deepest beliefs. The best organizations create a safe process for their teams to ask, hey, are the old reasons we did things this way still valid? Could we do this a completely different way? This gives them permission to find truly new solutions.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, it's a whole new philosophy for managing the unknown, and it's summed up perfectly by a simple phrase.
It's better to be roughly right than exactly wrong. The goal isn't to create some perfect, super detailed project plan for something you don't even understand yet. That plan is a fantasy. It's exactly wrong from day one. The real goal is to create a predictable, manageable process for learning your way to the solution. And in the end, it all comes back to that core mindset. This isn't just about project management, you know? It's about embracing failure as the very engine of success. As Michael Jordan famously put it, all of his failures were the very reason he succeeded.
So we'll leave you with this question. What's one sacred cow, one dominant assumption in your work that you personally can challenge this week? Because that right there, that's where your next breakthrough begins.